All right, take a look at this right here. You see these body lines? The bed comes along and then boom, drops down about an inch, and then the cab comes along. That's a pretty common thing you see in a lot of the trucks these days, because the bushings that the cab is mounted to are made out of rubber, and they're just going to smash down, smash down, smash down over the years. So today I'm going to show you how to take out your old ones, problems you might run into when you're doing it, how to solve those problems and put the new ones in correctly so we can get everything lined up and looking perfect. You stay tuned, you hear? Okay, now this is what comes with your kit. Now I've already installed the right side, so half the kit's already in the truck. This is what's going to be going on your left side. And all the pieces look relatively the same, so it's a bit difficult to remember what goes in front, what goes in back. So let's get the what goes in front, what goes in back down first. This is for the rear right here, and you can tell the difference between the front one that looks very similar. This one is all rubber right here, so that goes for the back. This one has a metal washer on the top and bottom that's like all impregnated into the rubber. In the rear, the piece that goes underneath this, it is also all rubber. The front one though also has a metal washer. You'll also notice this slight cut that's in the side right here. I'll show you more about that later. Another way you can tell the difference between the front and the back is that your front bolts are large and your rear bolt is skinnier. Your crush sleeve for the rear is also skinnier, and your crush sleeve for the front is fatter. They're also different heights that you're going to notice there, but it's pretty easy to tell the difference and keep them between the two because the skinny goes to the back and the fat goes to the front. Now, what is a crush sleeve for? When you're assembling this, what's going to happen is you're going to get your large washer and put it up on top of this. That's going to go up underneath the cab. You'll jack the cab up. You'll put this washer, this assembly here in where the cab mount is, okay? Then this crush sleeve is going to go in. Then you put this bottom piece on, your washer, your lock washer, and then your bolt. Now what happens is, if you did not have this crush sleeve in here, when you tighten this down, it'll just smash your rubber all the way down. So what happens is that when this crush sleeve bottoms out, if you will, on this washer, it won't let it smash down anymore and you'll have it in the proper place. So that's how the rear goes. The front goes, you get this washer right here. This is going to go on the inside of the cab. You'll have that little dish washer that'll go in there. Your bolt will go down. Then this is going to go up underneath the cab. You'll have your cab mount. This piece right here will go on. Oops, sorry. Don't forget your crush sleeve. Then your bottom piece, then your washer, and then your nut. Now this nut right here is a crush nut, so it's kind of like a lock nut, and you don't need a lock washer on the front. However, the rear does not have that because in the cab there's a caged nut, and it does not have a lock on it or anything like that. That's why you need this lock washer on the back, but not on the front. So now you know how these all go together. Let me show you how they come out. Now the front cab mount bolt is about right here. So we're going to have to take off the sill plate, roll the carpet back down, and get a hold of that head on the top. So when you're doing something like this, remember your peripherals. You're already taking your sill plate off, so maybe check and see how old and ugly yours looks or not. If it does, then just go ahead and get a new one when you're ordering your cab mount kits and kill two birds with one stone. A lot of times the carpeting is going to be glued down. You're going to have to rip it back off, but that's just going to be about that. Okay, so here you can see your bolt head right there. Now what somebody did on this, which is kind of common, is that it was welded in, and they do that so that they don't have to hold it on the top when they're tightening it on the bottom, but it's going to make your job more difficult. So all you got to do is just get a Dremel tool and then just carefully get into the edge where it is welded, and then grind it down enough to where you can pop those welds off, and then you'll be good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get a wrench on the top, get a wrench on the bottom, and take this off. Now a lot of times these things are going to be just rusted up crazy hard. So sometimes what I'll do is if the nut's on here and all the way up like that and all of this is rusted, I'll just cut this off about right here. Then I don't have to drag the nut off all that rusty metal. And sometimes if it's even worse than that, I'll just cut the nut off entirely, because you're not going to be saving your old bolt, because your kit comes with the new ones. So you don't have to worry about them when you take them out. Give me a minute to get this out, and then I'll show you what comes next. All right, so this just comes off like this. This wasn't too rusty, but like I said, if it is, just cut it off right here. We ain't saving it. You can get a screwdriver in this bushing here and pull it out, usually. Now, of course, you want to get some grease on these, some oil on these days before you're going to attempt any of this. It will help you out. If the rust is too bad, it won't, but at least you can give it a try. Sometimes this will be hard to come out because you have the crush sleeve that is in here, and you can see how pretty old and rusty that is. And sometimes your bolt will get stuck inside of there too, and you'll have to hammer it out also. But we got lucky on that one. Okay, so now we are taking off the rear right here. Now sometimes when you do this, there is a cage nut that I was talking about in the cab, and it will be so rusted that it won't work. Ours is working, but when I get this out of here, I'll show you what to do in case yours isn't. And that's all out. So this is what your bolt looks like when you take it out. Now, if it is rusted in the top right here, if you have a cage nut that is rusted, there's a little cage that holds onto a rectangular nut. And a lot of times, like I said, it'll be rusted up, so you'll just have to break that cage off of there and then just put on another washer and another nut when you're reassembling this, and that's it. Okay, now those bolts are off and we're ready to raise our cab, but we can't do it just yet. And the reason is because our radiator core support is still attached. We're going to need to loosen that up. And the reason is because when the cab comes up, we want our front fenders to come up at the same time. If we don't, what we're going to do is get a situation like this and our lines won't be correct. Now your radiator core support has this lock on it here, if you will. And all you do is you just bend this tab to the side. You'll be able to take your nut off, and you'll be able to take a bushing and a washer off on the bottom, and then when we lift up the cab, then our front fender will come at the same time and we won't get any binding. All right, now we're going to go ahead and jack the cab up. When we do, we want to be sure that we're on a really nice support right here. I also like to put a 2x4 underneath that because I like to span the pressure over a longer span, and then I don't have to worry about it like digging into anything. Now we're just going to jack this up enough to be able to take off our bushings. You're going to want to make sure that your crush sleeves are out, otherwise you're going to have to lift it up higher, and we don't want to do that. We only want to lift it up the amount that we're going to need to get over this little lip that is on the bushing. All right, get that out. Okay, right there's that lip that you got to get up over that brace right there. Front and back's basically the same. Like I said, the back is just like the front, but I'm just showing you just for kicks. You can see how it's got this edge on it right here. Now obviously you're going to want to clean all this up and paint it and everything before you put the new ones in. I'm not going to bother doing that today because I'm going to be painting this truck later, and I just ain't got time for it today. Okay, now remember that your rubber bushings are going to be thicker than the smashed ones that came out. You'll probably have to jack the truck up just a little bit higher in order to be able to get it in and up over this lip right here. Once that is sitting in the perch exact there, then we're going to go ahead and put this washer on. Now you got two different washers that are coming with this that are relatively large, but one's a little bit smaller and fatter, and one is thinner and it is a lot larger. The larger one is going to go on top right here. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and get our front on. Then I'll be able to put in my crush sleeve, my bottom piece of rubber, the thicker, smaller washer on the bottom, the lock washer, and then the bolt. Now when it's jacked up in the air like this, it's going to be too far up in order to get this bolt started. That's why we're going to need to get the front in and then lower it down to get that on. Alright, so I'm trying to put this bushing in and it is just not going. I thought that I just had a lot of dirt in here, but what we actually got going is that the metal washer that was glued onto the bottom of this rubber bushing here, it's actually rusted on to the perch, and it is rusted on there really good too. So I'm going to have to work on this to get it out. This is something that you can easily run into in your truck too. We're talking 50 odd years, so expect this kind of thing and just roll with it when it happens. Okay, finally got that guy out of there. Now we can put our new one in. You can see how this is fitting down here, and now we know we've got that correct. I can go ahead and lower down the cab. And then I'll put the bolt in from the top, and I'll start assembling this from the bottom. Let me show you that. So now we're going to take our big fat bolt and we're going to install it through the cab. Before we do that though, make sure that you put on this washer right here. Now when you put this in, you might run into this right here and it's not going all the way through, and that's just because all the holes from the cab and the bushings may not line up. So you might just have to get a large screwdriver and help line it up from the top or the bottom. You might need to jack the cab up and move it around a little bit to get that to go in, but one of the way or the other, it's going to go back in. So we got our bolt through. It's going to be our crush sleeve here, the lower piece. Now this edge right here, I gotta be honest, I don't know why that's in there. I thought maybe, you know, it doesn't line up to any of the sides or anything. So I'm not too sure why they put that in there, but that is the way it came factory. So when I install them, I just set them like this and just line it up with the edge of the bushing. It just seems a reasonable thing to do. Don't forget your big fat washer on the bottom, and then your crush nut. Now you're going to need somebody to hold the bolt at the top, or if you've got long arms, you're going to be able to reach inside the cab and hold it at the top while you're bolting it at the bottom. Okay. Now when I'm tightening these up, but I am not going to be torquing them all the way down. I'm just getting them relatively snug. I'm going to want to double check my cab and make sure everything's lining up again good. I want to make sure that I don't have to move it to the left or the right or anything like that. When you're jacking this up in the air, it'll jostle the cab off to the side possibly. So only do one side at a time. That'll help keep the cab in the correct spot, but you'll have to double check anyway regardless. So we're just going to snug these up, double check everything, and then we can go ahead and tighten up. That's good enough for this guy. Now we'll do the back. And the back is just like the front. We're going to put in our crush sleeve first. Then we've got our rubber bushing that goes on the bottom. We've got our large fat washer, and we've got our lock washer on there. So just like the front, when you install this, the holes might line up, they may not line up. You might have to jack the cab back up in the air, etc. But it will go back in. So just give me a minute to get this lined up and we'll show you what comes next. Now, if you did the left side and the right side separately, your cab should not have jostled around a lot. But I still like to get up on the outside and double check everything for any ink that's obviously out. After I'm satisfied with everything, I'll go ahead and I'll tighten up all of my cab mount bolts first. Then I'll go ahead and do the radiator core support. Make sure that you do, I strongly recommend that you do your radiator core support at the same time you do your cab mounts, because they're just as old and tired as your cab mounts were. I've got a video for you on that. It's on a link right down here. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten up all of these bolts, and I'll show you what comes next. Stay tuned. Now after I've got my cab mounts all tight, I'll get a torque wrench on there and double check to make sure they're all at 70 to 90 pounds according to the manual specs. Now let's take a look at our old bushings here. This is the rear bushing. You can see how much difference that is in height. And this is the front bushing right here. And you can see that's quite a bit of difference. And now we can see what kind of difference it's making here on our bed to our cab line. That's a lot closer than we had it. I can tailor that a little bit more, but that is a video for another day. My name is David Welch. I'm at Brothers Tech Center every single week making sure that your truck gets back on the road and looks good too. You make sure that you subscribe, ring the bell, all those kinds of things YouTube's got, because you're going to want to see the next video that comes out. I absolutely guarantee it.